Author Anne Rice's blend of eroticism and mysticism has thrilled readers for over 2 decades. She is best known for her Vampire Chronicles and Mayfair Witches series. In her 17th novel, Servant of the Bones, a supernatural hero journeys from ancient Babylon to modern-day New York City in search of redemption. I am pleased once again to have Anne Rice here on this broadcast. Welcome back.
Thank you, Charlie.
Now,
Great.
I do like you. Now, here is what's interesting. This is the first novel with under your name,
yes,
that has not been previously sold to the movies.
That's right.
And what does that mean? What's the significance of that?
It means I have a choice. It means I didn't make the decision a year ago. It means that I have all the options, that I can do all the things I want.
I can see that in Hello, David.
There are lots of Hello, David calls, but David's off building DreamWorks now. David's,
we're talking David Geffen, who produced Vampires.
Yeah,
did that make money?
Vampire made a fortune. It made $250 million worldwide. Plus, it's even making money for me, if you can believe it. I mean,
really?
When the writer gets a percentage, when the scriptwriter gets a percentage, I mean, the movie made.
I bet yours was taken right off the top. You know, the first dollar came in, they said,
right.
"Here's 50 cents for Anne."
Sure. Yeah. Right. No way. But no, it did very well. But David has gone off to do DreamWorks with Katzenberg and Spielberg. I'm sure you heard about their famous White House meeting, and he's no longer the guiding spirit, so nothing of mine is really being made out there right now. I mean, Warner Brothers controls all the vampire books. Right. They control the Witching Hour series that I wrote, but Jim Cameron has just bought another book I wrote called The Mummy.
A very good director.
And I think Jim Cameron will do a wonderful job.
He's a terrific director.
Yeah, I think he's terrific. I really do. I think he's quite fabulous. I think he's sort of a genius, really. And I'm very delighted that he wants to do The Mummy in Edwardian period.
We've talked about this before. In the end, you were happy with Brad Pitt and you loved Tom Cruise.
Absolutely. Still love Tom Cruise. I think he was fabulous. The more I've seen, I find it hard to watch Interview. It's very emotional, but it keeps coming on television. Like I'll walk into the room and there will be, Tom dying on the floor, stabbed by Claudia.
Yeah, right.
And I think, oh my God. But I think he did a fabulous job, and the performance holds up, and it was really wonderful. I'm very happy for his success with Mission Impossible. Very, very happy.
He's shown once again that Cruise magic and bring him into the theater, right?
Absolutely.
Was this difficult for you to write? Because you said here last time when you were talking about Menach the Devil, you said that the experience was agonizing. Was this agonizing?
This was agonizing. I wanted to create this spirit here, Azrael, that is really tricked into doing something that he thinks is for God. But it turns out to be something with a hook and a catch. And he becomes a spirit or a ghost for 7,000 years, and then he reemerges in New York on Fifth Avenue.
In present time.
Yes, he witnesses a terrible crime. He doesn't know who's called him forth. He's a spirit that's locked to his own bones, and the possessor of the bones is the master. He doesn't know who's called him forth, and he really has to start thinking for himself and deciding, do I have a soul, and can I do something? So I was able to get in here and give what I thought was a very exciting global perspective of this spirit, emerging from ancient Babylon, 600 BC, when, by the waters of Babylon as we lay down, etc. I was able to talk about East and West, what was going on the news, what he saw around him, all of this. And that was very exciting to me, to bring the contemporary world into this, yet still use the supernatural and the paranormal, which have always been so powerful for me as tools. So I had a ball with it, but it was tough.
It was.
Yeah.
He's not a vampire.
No, he's not a vampire. He's a ghost. He's a ghost who's locked to these golden bones. And he's a ghost who's told that he must do evil, and he decides, maybe I'm just not going to do that. So he gets an opportunity in the 20th century to stop something extremely evil, And that was very exciting to me. And what I'm right was, there's a great deal in it about terrorism, a great deal in it about genocide, a great deal in it about the problems that are in the news right now that are concerning me, that are obsessing me every night.
What are you obsessed by? Those subjects?
Sure,
Are you obsessed by terrorism when you see what happened in Atlanta? And what you see, like,
if I had my life to live over again, I'd become an anti-terrorist. I'm thinking of going to the government now, volunteering. Do you want me to be an anti-terrorist? I'll go in and get those guys. I mean, really, terrorism is unspeakable because it strikes at the innocent and the completely powerless.
You could call on some forces to oppose them that we may not
I would do it.
access to.
I would do it in a minute. I would do it in a minute. But anyway, this book is kind of about that. It's certainly a supernatural novel. It's a ghost story, but it's also about all of that.
Now, what is this about Antonio Banderas, who's an actor? Did you base this, or you were
Yeah.
thinking about him,
Yeah.
or you were
I wanted a model.
eroticizing about him, or something when you were?
Beg your pardon. I wanted a model for Azrael. I wanted a model, you know, and my characters look too much alike. You know, they're all feline, androgynous, gorgeous, you know, irresistible.
Are they
And
all
I was-
bisexual?
Yeah. And I wanted a model for Azrael, and I chose Antonio consciously because I thought Antonio Banderas is not only just one of the most beautiful men in the world, he's an extraordinary actor. He's a Latin lover, and yet he's a magnificent actor. And he had so knocked me out with the sensitivity he had displayed in the movie Philadelphia, where he played a homosexual lover of Tom Hanks. I had so loved him in that last scene when Hanks was dying. You know, I thought the man's range is incredible. And then he can turn around and do, you know, Assassins with Stallone and so forth. So I picked him as the physical model for Azrael. So in a way, this is my book for Antonio in a way. But I mean, it's, you know, Antonio is not Azrael and so forth. And Antonio knows this. I mean, I told him. You know.
You send him what? You send him a copy of the book and
Oh,
said
yeah,
this,
yeah,
and said
I
you were
did.
the model for, but
Yes, I did indeed.
Now,
But that
why-
doesn't mean anything. I'm just, you know, this means absolutely nothing. He may not have the slightest interest. I mean, he's very cordial to me. I spoke to him after an interview with the vampire, and he was wonderful. I think he did a great job in the film.
you liked him. That's how you first became
I think he's
aware
extraordinary. I think we're in a time right now of extraordinary actors. Antonio Banderas, Gary Oldman, Ray Fine, Tim Holt. We have a whole bunch of them. I'm leaving out some. I can't think
Well,
of them
sure,
all. You know,
yeah.
but we have really versatile young actors right now. You remember when 10 years ago it was mainly the New York street crowd? I mean, they were great,
You mean
and they're
Pacino
still
and
great.
those guys?
Sure, yeah, Pacino and De
Niro.
Niro and Pesci and so forth. And I still will go to any movie where they're going to kick somebody to death, you know, mafia style. But that was at that time.
Well, they do a
their
lot more than that.
their range, but I mean, well,
Now,
but
why
you know
am-
what I mean.
I do.
Raging Bull was magnificent, but the range of those
That
actors
was made
had
in
a
the
limit.
50s, wasn't it?
No,
it was
no,
the 70s, actually, made by
yeah,
Scorsese in the
yes,
70s.
Scorsese, and that was a great movie. Great
Why
movie.
are they all bisexual?
My characters? Didn't we get into this last time?
We did, but I wanted to, because you
Well, I have a bisexual mind. I see things bisexually.
Yeah, so
I
you want to
don't,
give both qualities
Yeah, and I
to-
mentioned before that I've been married 34 years, and
Right.
since I live a life that is not sexually active, really, I get I have the freedom to see the beauty of all different kinds of people, and life is very erotic to me and very sensuous in a very, I wouldn't say innocent way, but non-active way. I don't know how to say it, but certainly when I sit down to
I'm not going
write,
to help you out.
when I sit down to write, and I have this gorgeous picture of Antonio,
Right,
you
right.
know,
That's a sexual experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I also he was a perfect
Yeah.
model. That, like I said, that the eyes, the face, the character.
I'm exploring some of the same ideas that we have talked about over a number of interviews we've done, because not everybody's seen every interview, and
Sure,
so therefore
I
it
know.
becomes relevant.
No, I was teasing you.
It becomes relevant. Having said that, why the fascination with mysticism for you?
Doesn't everybody care about where we came
do.
from? I mean, do you
Is that
realize
by
we're
that-
going
is that
to
what
die?
Is that what mysticism
Well,
is?
well,
A concern
you
about
had
where
a
we
guest
came
on
from?
earlier who said that most of us were going to die. I mean, you know, all of us, to the best of my knowledge,
are gonna die.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you care? I don't understand why everybody isn't obsessed with mysticism. I mean, this book is about why are we here? Who can we listen to? Who is God? Who are God's representatives? You know, what do you do? This young man, Azrael, is told that he can save the Jews and get them back to
Right.
Jerusalem if he cooperates with Cyrus the Persian in the famous year when Cyrus came into Babylon and liberated the Jews. And they did go home to Jerusalem, in fact, and they rebuilt the Temple of Solomon. But he's also tricked into something. He's tricked into something. And so I'm asking the question, well, you know, who can you listen to? Who's the priest? Who's the God? Who's you know, what is it about? Then he comes up in the 20th century, sees this murder, and finds himself involved again with a modern religion, a sort of huge televangelist church, and some complexities. And I did a great deal of research, by the way, on the Hasidim for this book, because
Yeah,
I have
that's what it is.
several scenes set. I'm fascinated with the Hasidim because,
Why?
well,
The
they
Hasidim
most
here in New York.
they most resemble, for me, the kind of Catholics we were back in the 40s. Those, you know, they are the only people I know today whose lives are as thoroughly drenched in spirituality and ritual as ours were. In fact, their lives are more so. But when I was a Catholic in the 40s, we really did go to daily mass. We wore certain kinds of clothes. We didn't go to see certain movies. We didn't, you know, television was going to rot our souls. You know, kissing was, you would go straight to hell. You know, I mean, you know, and the Hasidim.
Now I understand what happened to you.
But I tell you what, what we had was a spirituality. We had a great spirituality.
If you think that sex and kissing will send you to hell, then that's put you on the wrong road right there.
Well, I'm one of the more famous pornographers in America. I think we know that.
So you came out all right.
I want to see if all those people who read the book go to hell.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. I don't think they're going to go to hell.
But mysticism flows out of everybody's concern about where they came from and where they're going.
Yes, it does, and it's also something very deep in most horror fiction. And I am writing horror fiction. What separates me from many writers is I believe that a horror novel can bear the burden of all you know and all you care about. And I believe I can make this a great book, you know, even though I'm talking about charms and spells and genies and magicians and so forth. So that I tried very hard to do that. And I hope this book will have a great moral impact on those who read it, as well as being a thrilling tale. I think it should be all that.
Who else did you research in terms of putting together this story? What other kind? You went to the Hasidim, and what else?
Oh, I researched a lot about Babylon and about Sumer. You know, I buried myself in the history of the Middle East. I got extremely involved in the whole history of what we call the Holy Land, where there has been endless war for the last 7,000 years. It was a new experience. I had always been somebody fascinated by Egypt, and I found, when I went back into the history of Babylon and Assyria and Sumer, I found us. This is really from what we descend, you know, through the Hebrew Christian tradition. This is really our lineage. Now, I mean, ancient Egypt is still mysterious. Nobody really knows what they were thinking.
How long does it take you to do this?
Well,
the research that you do.
I was doing research for this while doing Memnoch the Devil. You know, both books came out. Memnoch the Devil was the last book where Lestat confronted God and the devil.
Right.
Both books really came out of the same research. You know, I wanted to deal with the idea of the human or the immortal who doesn't necessarily trust the representatives of God or the representatives of the devil. And that both books are about that.
Do you listen to readers? Do you do book signings and listen to readers and all that? And what feedback do they give you?
Well, they give me a tremendous feedback on the spiritual aspects of the books. I mean, horror readers and science fiction readers really love lush language, they love poetic language, and they love ideas. That's always been true. You can go to the dinkiest little science fiction store in the slums of a big city, and you will find people standing in there talking about the philosophy of, you know, the various science fiction writers. They've always been extremely sophisticated. And so from the very beginning, they have given me feedback on that. I just did a signing in New Orleans in a church. We were talking about that earlier.
You bought a church.
This was not a church I bought.
Yeah.
This was a church that I was baptized in, made my first communion in, and is now no longer consecrated because it needs immense repair. And I did my signing in it in order to bring 2,000 people to it. And I signed for 8 hours at the altar about 2 steps from where I made my first communion. It was a very, very weird experience. But people coming through that line over and over again talked about what the meaning of the books were. You know, it's not just we enjoy them, they mean so much.
And when you get on radio shows where you have these call-ins, I bet they do that up one side and down the other.
Yeah, they do, actually.
The meaning of the books.
Yeah, they do.
And what about the internet? Do you do that kind of interactive stuff?
I'm connected with something called Salon, but I barely understand what it is.
Salon. Well, it's a new company that's trying to...
Yeah.
You know,
listen, can I say something to you that's
Sure.
completely off the wall?
Sure.
You're going to be talking this week a lot about taxes.
Yes.
If you want to cut me off, you can. But I am passionately concerned about this tax issue between Dole and Clinton.
Okay.
And I have been dirt poor, you know, quasi-poor, college poor, and I have been very well off. The American dream has come true for me. And I'm telling you, if we don't get rid of the IRS and get a flat tax, we're going to keep a nation of alienated criminals. I mean, everybody in America is an alienated person because of the IRS. Nobody can understand the rules. I recently ran a letter to President Clinton that I published in Variety. I bought the page, you know, and I said, please give us a flat tax. Beat the Republicans to the punch. And 3 days later, I got a letter from the IRS. We're going to audit you. First time in 12 years. And they came over and they haggled over little bitty things. But nobody, I'm telling you, had a room full of lawyers and accountants, and when I pay, you know, so much taxes really that it's ridiculous to be audited. But nobody knows the tax law. Nobody knows whether this blouse is deductible because I wore it on your show. It cost $39. Came from International Mail. You know, it's junk. But I mean, oh, I shouldn't
Well,
say
they don't
that.
want me to deduct this either. But
Well, they won't.
no,
You're kidding me. But I
no.
mean, nobody knows the answer, Charlie. Nobody knows the tax law. And so I just want to say right now, please, Mr. Clinton, go for a flat tax. Go for a flat tax and go for a flat minimum income so that people can collect their welfare and work, because Americans are going to work no matter what you have to do. You know, no matter what you do to them, they're going to work. In addition to welfare, disability, or anything, they're never going to lay back, Mac.
All right, well, let me ask you. You obviously voted for President Clinton, I
did indeed. I
Okay.
registered for the
And you
first
like
time
him.
in 15 years, and I think he's terrific,
in
and
92.
I think he's had one of the most astonishing administrations I've ever seen. I mean, the country has had biblical weather. I mean, foreign politics has been beyond belief. There has been, war everywhere. I mean, has so much ever happened to one president?
All right, well, let's stay with the taxing. It's very interesting to me, as you know, because of politics. Would it cause you, if President Clinton doesn't advocate, a simplified tax form, something close to flat tax, which he's not going to do, would it cause you to change your opinion and vote against him? Is it a powerful enough issue for you to vote for Senator Dole?
No, I will vote for Clinton. I will vote for Clinton, but it's very, very tempting. But if I don't want to be offensive, but I don't believe in the effectiveness of the Republicans to help us as a nation. See, I believe all the ideas, the wonderful ideas that FDR brought in were really needed at that time, and they worked. But now we need the exact reversal of that. We need just flat tax, flat minimum income, nothing based on disability, handicap. No incentives. I know people who just missed by $25 getting a grant to buy a house. They just made $25 too much. Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. And we have this happening all through our society, and we have people on welfare who, knock on my door and say, look, I'm on disability, I've got a broken knee, and I collected, but I can iron sitting down. Would you pay me cash? And we say, we can't. The IRS will come after us if we do that. All of us throughout the nation are workers. We know that now. Americans are not going to stop working no matter what you do to them. And FDR got them back to work, so now cut their tax, cut this welfare thing out, throw out all this bureaucracy, stop meddling with people, what they're doing in addition to collecting their checks, and just, let them go to work, and the economy will take care of itself.
Does Anne Rice, a multi-millionaire, think she pays too much money to the government, or does she simply think that the system doesn't work very well for the productivity of the American economy?
I think the system doesn't work very well.
So you're not really complaining about how much income tax you pay?
No, I pay what I have to. I pay about 45% of what I make between the state and the federal government, and I only take off very limited business deductions. But I'll tell you this, what I do try to do is spread income among those in my family who are indigent, which I don't want to hurt their feelings, but there are a few distant cousins that are indigent, and I have to pay gift tax on that money. So, to give it to them, just so they can live, keep their houses. I mean, so, no, I don't think I pay too much, but I don't like it. I mean, I think other people pay too much. I don't know how they take it. I don't know how they can stand it. See, I think we really want to, spend our own money, and we want to do good with it.
Do you also, therefore, want to see the government dramatically reduce its spending?
Oh, I think it's not that they have to reduce their spending. They have to reduce the utter chaos of the IRS and the chaos of the DEA.
That's for revenue side. That's on the revenue side.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just they have to get the bureaucrats and the liars and the double dealers out of there. That's what they have to reduce, and that will go way down. If you abolish welfare and you just have a national minimum income for which people have to register, you can abolish all those investigators who keep going out to check to see if women are really keeping a man in the house or really working an extra job. All that spying on the disabled to see if they're still disabled. I mean, we were rewarding people in this country for not working, for being disabled, for being mentally incompetent, for being sick. It's just got to stop. I mean, Americans cheat anyway. It is American to cheat. Most Americans that I know think anybody who pays his or her taxes without taking off every conceivable deduction is an idiot. You know what I mean? When they hear that I pay, 45% or so, they say, you're crazy. Haven't you heard of offshore companies? No, I'm going to pay my taxes, America is my country. I'm third generation Irish.
On a liberal conservative spectrum, where do you find yourself today?
I don't know, man. I can't tell where we're going. I think the Republican Party is just, I don't see any party. And I think Mr. Clinton has been beset by every obstacle that a president can be beset by. He's been, he's had these petty people nagging at him over these little bitty lawsuits.
You mean the Whitewater stuff and all that?
Yeah, right. I don't want the president of the United States spending time on stuff like that when we have to worry about terrorism, and we have to worry about foreign war, and we have to worry about real threats to our economy, whether or not, people in Russia are selling nuclear weapons to Middle Eastern countries. I'd much rather have him doing that, and have some little, at least temporary immunity. I don't believe he should have, carte blanche. You didn't expect this, did you?
No, but I like it. I mean, it's a different side of you.
But it's in this book.
I'm not surprised, though.
I'll tell you, it's in this book. I mean, Servant of the Bones.
You've brought in all these contemporary themes.
You have to grow as a novelist. When I started with Lyrical Interview with the Vampire, it was very much a hothouse type of horror novel. Okay, well, I'm growing with the paranormal, and I think I'm able. I hope I'm able to do it. I don't know.
Well,
maybe Faust was political at the time. Maybe Macbeth was. Maybe Hamlet was.
Well, they clearly were. Shakespeare was, for
yes,
sure.
Yes, the whole Banquo scene was done for the benefit of the king.
Servant of the Bones is a novel by Anne Rice. Now, you just signed a deal with Knopf for, speaking of taxes.
They won't tell me what. Knopf
they won't tell you, or they won't tell us.
Knopf doesn't want me to tell. I would cheerfully tell you it was $26 million, but Knopf does not want me to tell you that.
Okay. Well.
Okay. You know why I would tell you? Because I think every little writer out there trying it or typewriter should know
should be
that
inspired
you can
by the
make
fact that you got
without,
$26 million.
Yes, that you do not have to be George Foreman and you don't have to be Tom Cruise. You can do it writing.
Yeah.
You can do it writing very strange books. So, but Knopf, if I told you they gave me $26 million for 3 books, they'd kill me. I don't know what to do with these moral questions.
I don't either. Let's see, what's the tax on $26 million?
Well, it'll come in increments. I have to write these books, Charlie. I have to go home. I have to be inventive, And my mind is like a popcorn popper. I just can't wait to get back to Scripture and write something about Mary Magdalene. I want to really...
Your mind is fertile as well.
Yes.
If we knew what was going on inside your mind, we'd all be scared.
I tell you from time to time,
Well, yes, you do.
I am seriously
you tell me more than you tell most.
I do. I get on the show and make comments about murdering pimps and becoming an anti-terrorist.
Yes, you do. Well,
I do. I sit there so angry at people that would kill innocent people. It's the awful thing about so much revolutionary activity is it is the poor hurting the poor. Now, I'm not saying that the poor should hurt the rich, but it's often so self-defeating. You know what I mean? Well, what in the name of God good does it do to bomb a building full of working individuals? You know what I mean? Of
course it does no good. It's
hideous.
Now, let me go back to President Clinton.
Yeah.
Does he read your books?
I have no idea.
Have you ever had any contact with him?
I wrote that letter and published it in Variety.
Yeah,
he didn't answer.
He didn't answer.
The IRS did. By the way, they didn't find much. They settled for a very tiny amount of money.
I know.
But nobody knew what was what. I mean, it was truly an example of how no one knew what was deductible.
But I'm surprised. The president reads, and he reads lots of mysteries. I would assume that at some point he's picked up an Anne Rice.
Let's assume
he
reads
this
the
program.
books. He's from Arkansas, man. That's the South, I expect some loyalty.
Yes, you do.
But I'm not going to accuse him of reading my books.
You just said you voted for him, and you're going to vote for him again.
Yes, I'll vote for him again. I'll do anything for him.
Even though most of your philosophical leanings seem closer to the opposition.
Well, the Republicans are saying this now, but I mean, look what the Reagan years did to the middle class. I mean, I felt that Reagan hurt the middle class terribly. I mean, with what he did, anybody could have come in and thrown half the nation out of work. We could have stopped inflation. Jimmy Carter could have done that. We know that, I mean, but so no, I can't forgive the Republicans for that, and I cannot vote Republican. And I admire Mr. Dole. I think he's a nice old guy, I think he's this very sweet, nice old man.
He was much admired as a Senate leader.
I don't understand is how we can have a president with the dynamism and power of Clinton, and not have more recognition for that strength. You know what? There's got to be this guy. Are you trying to cut us off?
Yes. Yes. For God's sake.
Okay. Okay. It's been fun.
She's unstoppable. Once you wind her up, she just goes.
Well, you got me on a subject. Antonio Banderas and Bill Clinton are two very good-looking men.
Yeah, they are. I guess that'll do it for you. Servant of the Bones is the book by Anne Rice. We thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Hootie and the Blowfish. Join us then.